The hit sitcom ALF, 1986 to 1990, became a television classic thanks to its lovable alien and the warm, quirky Tanner family who took him in. While the show delivered endless laughs and heartfelt moments, time has cast a shadow over its legacy. Some of the talented actors who helped make ALF a household favorite have faced personal struggles, heartbreaking setbacks, and, sadly, untimely deaths. In this video, we take a look back at the lives and careers of the stars who have passed away, revealing the triumphs, tragedies, and often overlooked hardships they endured beyond the screen. Join us as we honor their memories and uncover the real-life stories behind the familiar faces from this beloved 80s show. Max Wright was born on August 2, 1943, and portrayed Willie Tanner in ALF starting in 1986 at age 43. Willie was the anxious yet well-meaning father, constantly trying to restore normalcy to a home derailed by a smart-mouth alien. After ALF, his career nosedived. He became embittered and disillusioned, frequently expressing hatred for the show due to its grueling conditions and the crew's obsession with the puppet. Professionally sidelined, Wright faced public humiliation in 2000 when he was arrested for driving under the influence, and again in 2003. But the real scandal hit in 2001, when shocking tabloid photos surfaced allegedly showing him smoking crack cocaine in a motel with two homeless men, dressed in women's lingerie. These images all but destroyed his remaining credibility in Hollywood. Despite a long marriage, sources claimed Wright was frequently absent and emotionally unavailable. He lived the last years of his life in seclusion, appearing briefly in small projects but never reclaiming the acclaim of his earlier years. He died of cancer on June 26, 2019, at age 75. Liz Sheridan was born on April 10, 1929, and joined ALF in 1986 as Raquel Achmonek at age 57, portraying the intrusive, nosy neighbor always on the brink of discovering ALF. Her character was played for laughs, but Sheridan's real life read like a noir novel. Before becoming a sitcom matron, she lived a wild life in 1950s New York, engaging in a passionate, chaotic affair with James Dean, which she later described as obsessive and all-consuming in her memoir Dizzy and Jimmy. She lived in artist communes, dabbled in experimental theater, and was reportedly involved in a few salacious love triangles within the jazz scene. Sheridan had a reputation for being difficult on set. Some co-stars on ALF and Seinfeld quietly complained about her sharp tongue and erratic behavior, which often clashed with the production team. Despite the warm roles she portrayed, her off-camera demeanor was sharp and unfiltered. She never married Dean or anyone else seriously, choosing an unconventional life marked by independence and occasional scandal. Liz Sheridan died of natural causes on April 15, 2022, aged 93. Benji Gregory was born on May 26, 1978, and played Brian Tanner in ALF beginning in 1986 at just 8 years old. As the wide-eyed, sweet-natured youngest Tanner, Brian was a loyal friend to ALF and often the emotional core of the show. But Gregory's real life after ALF was riddled with silence and suffering. Like many child stars, he vanished from Hollywood shortly after the series ended, later enlisting in the U.S. Navy in a quiet attempt to rebuild his identity. Behind this disciplined exterior, however, were battles with depression, PTSD, and reported sleep disorders that haunted him for decades. He was medically discharged before completing his service, and withdrew completely from public life. Then came the tragedy on June 13, 2024 at 46. He was found dead inside a parked car in Arizona, alongside his service dog, having succumbed to heat stroke and complications from hepatic cirrhosis. No foul play was suspected, but the eerie nature of his death, alone in blistering heat, suggested a man long struggling with despair. He was only 46. And Mira was born on September 20, 1929, and appeared on ALF in 1987 as Dorothy Alligan at age 58, the sharp, no-nonsense mother of Kate Tanner who never trusted ALF's presence. Her mother's suicide when she was just 12 left her emotionally fractured, She later admitted to periods of intense depression, spiritual confusion, and recurring anxiety attacks. Despite being half of the beloved Stiller and Mira duo, she often struggled with her identity in her husband's shadow, even as she converted to Judaism and raised 2 children in the faith. Off-screen, and was a chain smoker, known for her mood swings and obsessive perfectionism, traits that reportedly caused several clashes behind the scenes of productions she worked on. Though she avoided major public scandal, insiders recounted episodes of drinking and intense marital arguments in the early years, before therapy stabilized her. She stepped away from the limelight in later life, leaving a bittersweet legacy, celebrated yet quietly tormented. And Mira passed away from natural causes on May 23, 2015, at the age of 85. David Ogden Stiers, born on October 31, 1942, portrayed Flaky Pete in a 1988 ALF episode at the age of 46. Pete was a vagabond-like character, quirky, philosophical, and cryptic, mirroring Stiers' own aloof and enigmatic nature. While acclaimed for his role as Major Winchester in MASH** and his voice work for Disney classics, Stiers had a career built more on restraint than passion. Behind the camera, he was reclusive and deeply insecure, especially about his closeted sexuality during a time when being openly gay could destroy a career. He only came out in 2009, decades too late to correct a life spent performing emotional double lives. There were rumors of intense, obsessive love affairs with younger male colleagues that ended abruptly, leaving emotional wreckage and quiet settlements. On set, he could be icy and controlling, known to rewrite dialogue without permission, and once allegedly locked horns with a major sitcom director, leading to a multi-year blacklist. He died of bladder cancer on March 3, 2018, at age 75. Bill Daly, born August 30, 1927, took on the role of Larry in ALF in 1987 at the age of 60. Behind his affable image, he struggled silently with bipolar disorder and deep insecurities stemming from childhood abandonment. Twice divorced, he had a strained relationship with his children, one of whom publicly accused him of being emotionally distant and controlling. He was a compulsive gambler throughout the 70s and 80s, often blowing paychecks in Las Vegas before returning home broke. Though never involved in high-profile scandals, crew members from The Bob Newhart Show and ALF quietly referred to him as unreliable due to frequent lateness and mood swings. In his final years, he reportedly lived alone, surrounded by memorabilia, hosting small-time magic shows and comic conventions in a bid to stay relevant. Despite being beloved by fans, his private life was lonely and marked by mental health struggles he never addressed publicly. Bill Daly died of natural causes on September 4, 2018, at the age of 91. Cleven Little was born on June 1, 1939, and played George Foley in a 1987 episode of ALF at the age of 48. Though best known for Blazing Saddles, Cleven's career stagnated soon after, mired in the same typecasting he tried desperately to escape. His refined Shakespearean training was ignored by Hollywood, and while he projected confidence on screen, his personal life was riddled with isolation. Little kept most of his relationships secret. Rumors of bisexual affairs, including one with a powerful TV executive, circulated in industry gossip but were never confirmed. He fathered a daughter, but they had a rocky and distant relationship. Friends revealed he battled depression and chronic pain, often disappearing for weeks while self-medicating with alcohol, codeine, and sleeping pills. He was notoriously difficult on set. His refusal to tolerate even minor creative disagreement made him a pariah to some producers. His pride clashed with a racist industry, leaving him embittered and increasingly alone. He died from colon cancer on October 22, 1992, at the age of 53. Mickey Jones was born on June 10, 1941, and played Artie in ALF's first season in 1986 at age 45, bringing a blue-collar grit to the otherwise zany tone of the show. Jones, known for his gruff demeanor, had a background as Bob Dylan's drummer during the infamous 1966 tour, where he witnessed fistfights, drug abuse, and mental breakdowns backstage. His decision to leave the music world wasn't just career-related, it followed a near-fatal overdose in a London hotel. Transitioning into acting, Jones found steady work, but behind the scenes he was notorious for being controlling and paranoid. He suspected co-workers of undermining him, and on one ALF taping, stormed off set over a line change, nearly quitting the show entirely. Jones' marriage was turbulent. His wife reportedly filed for divorce twice, citing verbal abuse and emotional instability, though they reconciled both times. He was deeply affected by the sudden death of a former bandmate, which triggered years of chronic depression and alcohol dependency. Mickey Jones died on February 7, 2018, at the age of 76 due to complications related to diabetes. Marsha Wallace was born on November 1, 1942, and took on the role of Mrs. Lyman in a 1987 ALF episode when she was 45, channeling her signature wit and sass into the character. She grew up in a home plagued by alcoholism and emotional abuse, later revealing that food became her first addiction, followed by alcohol and antidepressants. Her marriage to Dennis Hawley, once hailed as her rock, ended in heartbreak when he died suddenly, leaving her with a young adopted son and spiraling grief. Off-camera, Wallace had frequent battles with producers over sexist jokes and was nearly fired from the Bob Newhart show after a drunken outburst at a CBS party. Her son, Michael, struggled with behavioral issues in adolescence and was briefly placed in juvenile detention, something she rarely spoke about. Though she eventually found stability, Wallace lived under constant fear of relapse. Friends described her as generous but emotionally fragile, with a biting sarcasm that masked deep insecurity. She died from pneumonia on October 25, 2013, just days before turning 70. Ed McMahon was born on March 6, 1923, and appeared as himself on ALF in 1988 at the age of 65, playing a larger-than-life version of the announcer everyone thought they knew. But the Ed McMahon behind the grin was a man tormented by demons. Beneath the blaring hair's Johnny lived a compulsive gambler who blew through millions, a chronic spender who left his family saddled with debt, and a man so mired in lawsuits that his Beverly Hills mansion was foreclosed. His alcohol use was legendary in industry circles, with one producer calling him a high-functioning drunk who could charm and destroy in the same sentence. Colleagues whispered of his mood swings and toxic fallouts with co-hosts, including one explosive clash with Star Search producers that ended in a covert settlement. Despite a carefully curated public image, he died in disgraceful contrast to his former fame, broke, battling illness, and relying on charity from Donald Trump to avoid homelessness. McMahon died on June 23, 2009, at age 86 from bone cancer. Nedra Volos, born June 18, 1908, brought her eccentric brand of chaos to ALF in 1987 as the Catwoman at age 79. Her character was a wild-eyed oddball, perfectly suited to the show's bizarre tone. But behind that warm comedic presence was a woman who had survived the brutal sexism of old vaudeville and emerged with scars hidden beneath her twinkling eyes. Volos' late-life success in sitcoms belied decades of poverty, a long-suffering marriage to a controlling husband who reportedly sabotaged her early film aspirations, and a son who publicly accused her of emotional neglect during her busiest years. While her colleagues adored her on set, her private life was a closed book. Sources close to the family later hinted that she may have battled early symptoms of Alzheimer's for years before being formally diagnosed, leading to erratic behavior that many dismissed as just her character. Volos died on January 20, 2003, at the age of 94, from complications related to Alzheimer's. Sam Whipple was born on September 25, 1960, and played the character Sam in ALF in 1986 at the age of 26. On screen, his role was small but quirky, bringing an endearing awkwardness that meshed well with ALF's chaotic charm. Off-screen, however, Whipple's career was a series of near breaks and sharp letdowns. Despite appearing in The Rock and The Doors, he was constantly cast in the shadows, frequently passed over for bigger roles due to his unconventional look and soft demeanor in an industry obsessed with alpha charisma. His personal life, meanwhile, remained mostly invisible to the press, but those close to him described a man haunted by a deeply fractured childhood and a volatile relationship with his estranged father, a failed actor who projected his bitterness onto Sam. Whipple's health began deteriorating in the late 90s, but he continued auditioning in secret, desperate to cling to the dream. Rumors swirled about his quiet struggle with substance use, possibly tied to painkillers following cancer treatment, which may have contributed to his reclusion from the industry. He died on June 3, 2002, at the age of 41 from cancer. Frederick de Cordova was born on October 27, 1910, and appeared as himself in ALF in 1988 at the age of 78. On the show, his role was a meta-nod to Hollywood royalty, gruff, old school, and uncompromising, an eerily accurate reflection of his real persona. De Cordova ruled NBC like a monarch during his time with The Tonight Show, but behind the scenes, his empire was built on intimidation, veiled threats, and whispered feuds. He famously clashed with younger talent, and insiders recalled how his backstage demeanor often shifted from charming to tyrannical in seconds. Though rarely publicized, he had a notorious feud with David Letterman, and Johnny Carson reportedly distanced himself from de Cordova in his later years due to generational differences that some say masked deeper personal betrayals. Rumors of misogynistic rants and a penchant for backroom manipulations circled his final years in television. Despite his carefully preserved legacy, Fred de Cordova died on September 15, 2001, at age 90 from natural causes. Kathleen Freeman was born on February 17, 1923, and appeared in ALF in 1988 as Betty Suzla at the age of 65. Though known for her high-energy comedic turns, Freeman's private world was shrouded in secrecy. She never married, and for decades, Hollywood whispered of her rumored long-term relationship with a female partner, a taboo that, in her prime, could have ended her career. As one of the few lesbian actresses of the Golden Age, she played the role of the busybody spinster while living a double life. Her devotion to stage and voice work masked a deeper wound, a sense of erasure, of never being fully seen. Freeman was known to be obsessive about control, once firing an agent for booking her as comic relief instead of supporting lead. She could be scathing to co-stars who missed cues, often lecturing younger actresses. Though outwardly warm in interviews, many found her difficult, even ruthless, off-camera. Kathleen Freeman died of lung cancer on August 23, 2001, at the age of 78. And Ramsay, born March 27, 1929, played Ethel Buttonwood in ALF in 1988 at age 59, and her portrayal mirrored the sharp-tongued, combative persona that made her famous. But behind the unforgettable growl was a woman battling relentless illness in an industry that feared her face. Following multiple surgeries for throat cancer, Ramsay returned to acting with a partially removed jaw, which gave her a signature snarl, but it also subjected her to cruel mockery and whispers that she was grotesque. Hollywood pigeonholed her as a monster matron, even as she yearned for roles of grace and depth. Her marriage to actor Logan Ramsay was both passionate and chaotic, marred by screaming fights and mutual jealousy. Colleagues described her as fiercely loyal but prone to fits of rage, sometimes berating makeup artists or storming off set mid-scene. Her Oscar nomination for Throw Mama from the Train came too late to save her ailing body or reputation. And Ramsay died on August 11, 1988, aged 59, from throat cancer. Bob Denver, born January 9, 1935, played Gilligan in a 1987 ALF episode at age 52, bringing with him the echo of his iconic but typecast role. But behind the goofy grin was a man consumed by frustration and addiction. After Gilligan's Island, his career never fully recovered. He was offered little more than gimmicky cameos and was known to lash out at producers who treated him like a novelty. He was arrested in the 1990s after marijuana was found in his home, with reports suggesting he claimed the drugs had been mailed to him by Dawn Wells, his former co-star, leading to bitter public fallout. His marriage to Dreama Perry had periods of deep tension, especially over financial instability and Denver's paranoia about the media. Behind the scenes, he was said to be controlling and passive-aggressive with crew members, clinging to fame while battling chronic health problems and depression. Bob Denver died on September 2, 2005, aged 70, from complications following cancer treatment. Earl Bowen was born on August 8, 1941, and portrayed Warren in a 1987 ALF episode at the age of 46. Though known for his booming voice and polished roles like Dr. Silberman in The Terminator, Bowen's private life was marked by complex contradictions. A devoutly religious man in public, he reportedly alienated colleagues by imposing rigid moral judgments on set and cutting ties with friends who didn't align with his worldview. While his voice acting career flourished, insiders claimed he burned bridges in live-action television due to what some called a holier-than-thou demeanor. Despite his surface professionalism, Bowen reportedly clashed with directors, often rewriting dialogue to suit his sensibilities and refusing direction. His long marriage was rocked by rumors of emotional distance and infidelity, though never publicly confirmed. In his final years, he lived in near seclusion, battling lung cancer quietly. Earl Bowen died on January 5, 2023, at age 81. Kasem was born on April 27, 1932, and appeared as himself on ALF in 1990 at the age of 58. Though he seemed the eternal optimist with his cheery voice, his personal life unraveled into one of Hollywood's ugliest family feuds. Kasem's final years were consumed by a bitter war between his second wife Jean and his children from his first marriage. Allegations of elder abuse surfaced as his children accused Jean of isolating him, withholding medical care, and moving him across state lines against his will. Court battles over his conservatorship and even the location of his remains erupted into national headlines. Adding to the bizarre spiral, his body was reportedly relocated multiple times post-mortem, even buried in Norway despite his lifelong ties to Los Angeles. Though beloved as Shaggy's voice and host of American Top 40, Kasem's tragic ending, plagued by manipulation and legal chaos, overshadowed his legacy. He died on June 15, 2014, at age 82, from complications of Lewy body dementia. Fran Bennett, born August 14, 1937, appeared in ALF in 1989 as Mrs. Watson at age 52, bringing dignity and authority to the role. But beneath her regal demeanor lay decades of struggle against institutional racism in the industry. Bennett fought for every role, often turned down for being too commanding or not commercial enough, code for her unapologetic black identity. She publicly criticized CalArts administration for underfunding minority programs, leading to tense professional standoffs. Privately, she endured profound loss. Her only son died in a 1998 car accident, plunging her into a deep, silent grief. Though she mentored hundreds of students, some claimed she was emotionally distant and prone to harsh critiques. There were quiet rumors of her battling chronic depression in her later years, exacerbated by arthritis that made teaching painful. Fran Bennett died on September 12, 2021, at the age of 84, a towering figure who bore her scars in silence while commanding the stage like few others. Richard Wright was born July 3, 1933, and appeared in ALF in 1987 as Walter Burke at age 54, delivering subtle humor and composure. Though widely respected for his 130-plus acting credits, Wright led a dual life few suspected. While balancing his tax preparation business for celebrities, rumors circulated of insider trading tips shared under the guise of tax advice, though no charges were ever filed. His obsessive secrecy extended to personal matters. he kept a long-term relationship hidden for over 2 decades, only acknowledged posthumously in court records. Industry whispers spoke of Wright's passive-aggressive nature on set and his insistence on controlling script edits, even as a guest actor. Despite his gentlemanly public image, a 1993 altercation with a stage director reportedly led to an unofficial blacklisting from several high-profile TV productions. Wright died on August 5, 2022, at the age of 89, leaving behind a carefully curated reputation and a trail of quiet professional conflicts. Alan Hale Jr., born March 8, 1921, appeared in ALF in 1987 as Skipper Jonas Grummy at age 66, a nostalgic nod to Gilligan's Island. But the smile he wore masked a quiet decline. Following Gilligan's Island, Hale struggled to find roles that weren't typecast, leading to years of low-paying bit parts and voice work he found humiliating. Friends claimed he battled alcoholism through the late 70s, which strained his marriage and led to a short-lived separation hushed by PR teams. Financial mismanagement and a failed restaurant venture left him near bankruptcy, forcing him to take increasingly degrading roles just to survive. Despite his warm image, colleagues described him as deeply melancholic in later years, haunted by being forever remembered as the skipper. He was rumored to have refused cancer treatment in his final months out of despair. He died on January 2, 1990, at the age of 68, from thymus cancer, quietly, without fanfare, in a small Los Angeles hospital. Who is your favorite character in ALF? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.